Gonna play out. There you go. Okay, as you can see today, we have Mr. Christopher Hodges. He's our guest today. I'm gonna get into it with him. I'm gonna do a formal introduction. But yeah, we've been talking offline, and we've been laughing a lot. So hopefully, we'll get through this interview without laughing too much because we're having way too much fun, way too much fun. But today is Tuesday, June 28th. It's show number 165. I always have to pinch myself when I say show, 100 and whatever, because I mean, 3 years ago or 2019, wouldn't have thought I would, accomplish one show. And the average, for people that did not know, the average podcast only goes like 6 shows because people get frustrated. They like, well, no one's listening, and they start second guessing themselves. But the longest one, or the average one, goes for 6 shows. So to go to 165, I have to pat myself on the back sometimes. So there you go. So but yeah. So if you guys ever do these shows and you get discouraged, just continue on, because it's just all about the grind. So it's not easy, but it gets fun. I mean, and I look forward to it every week, especially when I have a guest on like this gentleman here. I mean, I just up my. I was telling people, who I was going to have on the show, and what he's accomplished and all that. They said, you're just upping your game. I mean, you're just getting these great guests and things like that. So, but I want to thank Chris for being on the show. But before I was going to say before I allow him to talk. No, that's not what I mean. I want to do the formal introduction, and then I'm going to invite him onto the stage and to start talking. So, but anyway, and before we get started, remember that this is a interactive show, right? Meaning people, and I don't know if Christopher knows this, but people will make comments in real time, and I can see this. I'm not sure, you probably can't see them, but I can see the comments. So if anyone asks questions for you, I'm gonna, read those questions to you and make the comments, whatever these comments are, providing they're good comments, because I mean, I have to screen these calls too, right? And I just don't want just anybody saying anything. But we just have a comment from Dylan Beaumont. Dylan Beaumont is a general manager at the Fairfield Inn in Eugene, Oregon, and he just says consistency. Consistency is the key, right? Okay, there you go. I appreciate that, Dylan, and thank you so much again for joining in. So my guest today is Mr. Christopher Hodges. I met Chris, just real quick. I met Chris at a North Star event in Denver maybe 2 months ago. So North Star is a organization that puts on meeting planning events and meeting planner and supplier events, meaning meeting planners like myself go, and suppliers like hotels and CVBs, or Convention and Visitors Bureau, tourism boards, or whatever. They come and we learn about each other, right? We learn if there's business for each other, and it's all about networking. So it's one of those things where you go and you learn, you get to meet a lot of people. You eat and drink with them, and then hopefully at some point you do business with them sometime in the future. And Christopher was he was a guest speaker, kind of a motivational speaker, entertainment. He did all this kind of stuff, right? In a matter of about 30, 45 minutes, right? It was the most engaging thing. I was just telling him, I don't resonate with a lot of speakers, and I don't, when it's over, I kind of forget them, right? But I don't forget this guy because, and I'll tell you this real quick, because it goes to this whole connection thing, or attempting to network with people. After the show was over, after his speech was over, he has a book, right? So he was autographing books and things like that. So he actually signed one for my daughter. And then I thanked him, and, we kind of went about our way. Maybe 2 or 3 days later, I get this instant message on LinkedIn from him saying, it was a pleasure. Basically, it was a pleasure meeting you. Maybe we can, continue, communicating or networking or whatever. I'm like, great, yeah, let's do that. So we continue that. And then he said, maybe even be on your show. So he suggested be on the show, right? So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Because although he's not in the space, he supports the space. And you're going to see exactly what I mean by supporting the space. So I guess I kind of introduced you already. But anyway, no, I'll go ahead and read. I guess I'll go ahead and read this anyway. My guest today is Mr. Christopher Hodges. Chris is the author of Noble Automation Now. He works with executives and their HR partners to succeed with high ROI, intelligent automation, and transformation projects across industries, including the meeting and travel industry. Specifically, he helps leaders improve engagement, create innovation, and build durable business solutions which serve all stakeholders. Chris is the former Northern European intelligent automation leader for Accenture and Deloitte. He is also a GE certified master black belt and quality leader. He is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Thank you so much for that and your service, and the London Business School. Please welcome, as he comes to the microphone, Mr. Christopher Hodges.
I love it. I love it.
But thank you so much, Mr. Hodges. I appreciate you coming on, and this is going to be great. So there you go.
I am thrilled to be here. And as I said to you earlier, the only thing better than being on your show is being in the same room with you and a multicolored rooster. I mean, what can I say? You and Sherlock Holmes. Think of the brain trust between you, me, Sherlock Holmes, and the rooster. That is a fantastic combination.
Okay, all right. I can see where this is going. Okay. No, this will be fun. Thank you so much. But once again, thank you again for, we kind of played like, I guess, LinkedIn tag for a minute. And, I thought I had given you a date, here's a date. What do you think about it? And I guess I didn't, right? And I kind of caught myself. I'm like, wait a minute. Because I put you down, I penciled you in on a date. Actually, it was last week. And then I said, well, God, he never got back to me. But then I looked back at my notes or my last communication with you, and I never gave you a date. So thank you so much but the next date I gave you, you were available to do it. So I do appreciate you.
Well, I am. And it was a huge priority to do this. And I'm really happy like you, I felt like we really connected when we met at the North Star event in Denver. It just so happens that since I saw you last, I have an unbelievably busy schedule with a client that I'm working with who happens to like blue walls because I'm at their site. And I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy you're able to do it. But real quick, not real quick, but, in your own time, let us know, what is your journey? Because okay, you went to the Naval Academy, but now you're this highly sought after consultant. What happened between that? I mean, kind of give us a quick synopsis of your career, because I know you didn't just wake up and you're Chris Hodges, the speaker.
I thank you for assuming that waking up Chris Hodges would be a big thing, right? I mean, who knows? I think everybody has a journey like this. And I was just telling an Uber driver a couple of nights ago, actually, when it was last night. I came in midnight to this client site. And I was telling this Uber driver, it took me way into my 40s to figure out what my journey actually meant, because you just live your life and you do these things, right? And you don't necessarily see that they string together in a story. And at least I didn't see. Maybe other people are more, insightful. So I went to the Naval Academy. I grew up in Southern California. I went to the Naval Academy because, believe it or not, I knew I needed structure in my life. Because my high school had surf PE, believe it or not. So let's say, dude, I needed some structure. So that was when Officer and a Gentleman had come out, that movie Officer and a Gentleman had came out. And I said, oh, wow, look at that uniform and look at the attention he gets. So anyway, I had visited Annapolis, went to the Naval Academy. So I was in the Navy for about 10 years, met my wife in Japan. She was our base legal advisor. Joined General Electric. I went to business school when I was still in the Navy. So I had really had this international thing. I wanted to live in these international countries, which I was able to do. I was able to live in Japan and then London. And then eventually we spent some time in Denmark. So anyway, a bunch of countries. When I left the Navy, I went into General Electric. And these are the days of Jack Welch, when General Electric was, the Apple or the Amazon of its time, right? And Jack Welch was truly one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. And what he was very focused on was improving the execution and the customer service and the quality experience of the company. I remember him saying once, I want to see GE be the company we say it is. And, I want the customers to experience what we're talking about. So I worked in GE for about 10 years. And then I went into consulting because I realized if I wanted to drive revenue in a company, and do what I loved, that meant consulting. That meant helping other businesses improve the way their customers experience what they do. And that I realized that was a theme, because even back in Japan, I was fascinated by the level of quality that the Japanese demonstrate in so many things that they do. From the way their service attendants pump gas, or their department store clerks wrap packages, or their manufacturing of amazing cars. So I got really into quality, and a big part of quality is customer service, is delighting people. And then, of course, I'm a huge Disney fan. I've been a Disney Vacation Club member for 22 years. And I'm a huge believer in the hospitality industry. I've been a customer of the hospitality industry for most of my life, whether it's big companies, going to big company meetings, seeing what a great event can be, what a great event could not be. So then I found myself in Copenhagen, Denmark, of all places. And I was the intelligent automation leader for a big consulting company, Accenture, and then Deloitte. And what intelligent automation is a bunch of tools, and we talked about this before the call, a little bit, what I call it. It's a bunch of tools that help humans be heroes in the age of automation. And that's when I finally realized altogether what I love nothing more than to do is to take the drudgery and mundane horribleness out of people's jobs and let them, flourish and bloom as human beings. And that's what I mean by help humans be heroes in the age of automation. So my story is that all along, from when I was a young kid, I started a donut business when I was 12 years old. Oh, my mother was the chief operations officer and cook, and I was just the delivery guy. But from the donut business to now, and this is the second book I wrote, is this book we're talking about today a little bit. But it's all about how do we as human beings working in organizations be more heroic, be more human, be more empathetic? How can companies bring out the best of their human beings by having the technology take care of the stuff that, really makes us not so happy? So there's my journey. Okay. I don't know if that answers your question, and now I live in Denver.
Kind of. Kind of. Well, let me ask you. Well, this is one of the things you mentioned. I didn't realize you were from Southern California.
I grew up in San Diego. Yeah.
Okay. What high school did you go to?
Are you from San Diego? I didn't.
No, I'm just.
So I
have cousins from.
So I grew up in Scripps Ranch, and then they didn't have a high school, so I went to Mira Mesa High School in San Diego. Okay. The first 2 years, Mira Mesa, and then my parents moved, and I spent the last 2 years in Torrey Pines. So I got 2 years in each high school. And Torrey Pines is the one that had surf PE.
Okay, all right, that's what I want.
Yeah, Mira Mesa had a great track team. I was on the track team, but Torrey Pines had surf PE.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, this is good. This is good. I love that. I love that story. So yeah, I always say everybody has a backstory, to how they got to where they are, and people are interested in the path to where you got, because like you said, we didn't just wake up and this is who we are. So, but okay, you mentioned that you stay in hotels a lot. You're a fan of hotels. So if I had to ask you a question, which I'm going to ask whether you want me to or not, I'm going to ask you this question. And this is a general question, and you answer it, however you want to answer within the space that you work in. Okay.
Okay.
What are hotels missing today?
I think not just hotels, but I think what hotels need to have in order to really be the captivating experience that people want. There's a lot of hotels, right? A lot of chains, a lot of places you can stay. They need to have the magic experience. And when I say magic, that I don't want to overplay that. It's not literally magic, but it's where Kayla, who happens to work at the Marriott Courtyard I'm staying in Cary, North Carolina right now. Kayla remembers my name and asks me about my wife and tells me about her life. And Abby, who also works in the hotel. I mean, I've seen him for a couple of weeks, right? And they have something to say, and they smile when I see them, and they think about it, and I smile when I see them, right? So that's a simple magic thing. And then there's some more sophisticated magic things that when you talk about some of the tools and techniques that I talk about. So one of the things I talk about with intelligent automation is these robots that can deliver drinks to your room or food to your room from hospitality. So let me tell you the difference between boring technology and magic. All right. So boring technology would be some robot that brings you 2 beers and a bag of peanuts, right, up to your room. And that's not too exciting. It might, there's novelty the first time it happens. Magic would be when that robot takes on the persona of a character with a screen. And that character is funny or unique or engaging or uses my name when I open the door. And there's a screen with the robot's face on it that says, "Hi, Mr. Hodges," or something, right? And it says, and maybe makes a joke about the peanuts that I ordered or something else. So that's, it's the difference between just using technology and using it in a way that can be captivating. Another example I showed you when we were in Denver. There's some hotels in Japan that are used for couples who live, everyone lives with their family. So maybe there's 6 people living in a house. And these couples need a little private time, and they go out to a hotel for that purpose, for, spending some time together. And they don't necessarily want to meet someone at the desk. So what the Japanese have done is put a robot behind the counter, but the robot looks like a dinosaur. So it's a dressed up dinosaur, right? Now you might go, well, that's kind of dumb, but you could make it a bunny or a bear or anything else, right? So it's that difference between function and magic. And I think that's what makes the greatest of the hotel experience. And magic, the best thing about magic is it's hard to replicate. Magic is unique to the individual hotel and to the place and the person. So that's what I would say. Magic is one, and helping humans be heroes. And we can talk about that if you'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, let's continue on. You're on a roll.
Okay, so this is something I have to admit I didn't realize these words until before I wrote the book Noble Automation Now. There was a guy named Joseph Campbell who, when he died, which was about 15 years ago, he was one of the leading authorities in the world on mythology. And what he had done is he had traveled around the world, started with Navajo Indians, but he traveled around the world learning the mythology of various countries and cultures, to the point that he knew hundreds of cultures and mythologies. And what he found in that mythology was something he called the hero's journey. And if you've ever tried to write a screenplay or something, you'll know what I mean. But I'll give you a better example. Think of the movie Star Wars or Harry Potter or The Matrix. All of these movies follow a certain path. It's like a circle. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because what Joseph Campbell found is that the hero's journey is what we see our lives' potential as being. You might see it in a mythological book or a movie, but the truth is the hero's journey is very much about an inspired way to live. And those journeys go round and round. So let me give you an example. Luke Skywalker comes home, finds out his farm has been burned to the ground. His relatives are no longer there. He's met Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he has to go out and fight a battle he didn't even know existed. So he has to overcome all these challenges. He has to leave the old world, go to the new world, fight these amazing challenges, listen to his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, to learn the power of the Force. And then he has to face his deepest, darkest fear, of course, which of course is Darth Vader. And only when he can overcome Darth Vader does he finish the hero's journey and come back in the phase called return. And return is where you come back to the tribe and you bring back, maybe it's the treasure. Maybe it's just a feeling of transcendence. You're a better person than you were before. Maybe it's a medal around your neck. Maybe it's a little plug on your resume that makes you look good. So the point of the hero's journey, I think, in work, and I'm doing that right now with this client, they're facing a very difficult challenge to implement a bunch of technology and improve their customers' experience, right? And if they just see it as, I'm going to implement this technology and get this project, that's not very inspiring, right? But what is inspiring is for every one of them to know they're going to learn something new. They're going to leave the old, go into the new, learn some new tools and techniques, some things that might scare them. And to, some people that might be running your first team meeting, or maybe in the hotel business, you've never hosted an event this big. How are you going to manage this huge event with every one of your banquet rooms filled and all of your staff completely swamped? That's a big hero's journey to undertake that, right? So, but if you face it like that, you say, well, there are going to be challenges, just like the hero's journey. I'm going to face this challenge and that challenge and that challenge. I'm going to have a mentor along the way who's going to help me understand how to do this, someone who's more experienced. And then I'm going to face my dragon. And that's what Joseph Campbell said. He said the dragon in this mythology is the reason it's big and bad and fire breathing and scary is because if we had to say it wasn't that, we would have to admit that the thing we're really facing is fear itself. So when you overcome and face that fear, maybe it's the fear, can I pull off this successful event? Can I fill the rooms on the holiday weekend, after the refurbishment of my $50 million refurbishment of my hotel or whatever the challenge is? Can I make it through this team meeting for the first time in my life without looking like an idiot, right? And that depends on the person. They all have their own dragon. Yeah. Once they face that dragon and they come back out of the hero's journey, they are a transcendent person, which is a fancy word for saying better. They are a better and more evolved human being. And then they realize, hey, I made it through this hero's journey. And so what I realized in writing this book and the years I spent with technology is that people are desperate to be heroes. We all want to be heroic, right? Man, woman, we want to go out and do something great. And a lot of times we don't. And why don't we? Either we don't take the chance or the people around us don't see the chance. But as soon as I realized you could frame your life up like that, and you could really start to say, this isn't a terrible boss I'm dealing with. This is a dragon. And this dragon I am going to overcome. Right? This isn't a horrible vendor who's always late and shows up with this is a dragon I'm going to figure out how to get around. I'm going to slay this dragon. And that doesn't mean kill your boss, by the way. It means slay the dragon. So that's what you heard me. That was the talk I gave in Denver. And I find that combining technology to help humans be heroes so they can use the technology that makes their jobs better, seeing things in a transcendent hero's journey kind of way is a really inspirational way to make. Henry David Thoreau once said that most men, and he meant men and women, most men lead lives of quiet desperation, right? They go to work, they come home, they don't have a multicolored rooster above their head. I mean, think, what would they do? Oh, seriously though. They have a job that's boring. They don't find any inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that whole idea of being able to find inspiration in your life, in the journey, don't say it's a horrible situation. Say it's your next dragon. That is an important way, I think, to look at work and realize that. And by the way, when you get to the end of your hero's journey, it's like the Hobbit in the movie, the Hobbit. So the Hobbit finishes that first big journey, and he's in the Shire. And he's full, dumb, and happy, right? He's got a cupboard full of food and a lot of wine, and he's just chilling out. And what happens? Gandalf comes and knocks on the door and says, time for your next hero's journey. That's the real life. And that's what I'm trying to help people see and feel and experience. I think it makes our jobs more inspirational and enjoyable.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Now, during this, when you're introducing this to a company, just like you say, you have a client right now, do they always welcome you in? And if they don't, how do you get past that part where they're kind of standoffish, like this is not going to work? I mean, we've heard this before. I mean, just anything. Right. And I'm sure you've heard all those things.
I try, and this is a good example of where I am right now. I try not to talk about dragons and stuff too soon, right? Because that, like, what are you talking about? Dragons? I try to say, so you got this new world you're embarking on, and you got the call to adventure, which is what Joseph Campbell would say. That call to adventure is to take on something new, right? And the call to adventure is that thing that's like the phone that won't stop ringing, right? It'll keep ringing until you answer the phone. So so you got this challenge, and it looks like you really kind of need to do this thing, right? I don't call it the call to adventure yet. And then, well, if you do that, you're going to have to cross a line between what you know and what you don't know, right? So what does that look like? Does that sound a little fearful? And people recognize that. I recognize that, right? And then, hey, it sounds like you're going to go through some tough challenges along the way, right? And what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, of course, that's the dragon. What's the worst thing you're going to face? And then if I find that people are open to it, then I start talking about what that journey is. If I get a chance, well, it's even better if the company has paid me to come in and speak to their leadership team, then they've already heard this story, right? And then they kind of got it. They go, oh, I know what he's going to do. And then I can start to ease that subject. And I have yet to have anybody say, well, and the reason they don't reject that idea is because that's a timeless loop. That has gone on for thousands of years. The Egyptians, the Kenyans, the Navajo, the Japanese, you name it, the Irish, they've all got something that looks very similar to that. Some countries don't use a dragon, of course. They use a different thing. It's a nasty bear in the woods or whatever the scary thing is. But metaphorically, it's all the same thing. So what I find is the only people who don't embrace it reasonably quickly are people who are terrified. And then it takes a while to say, the replacement for fear is adventure. And it's sometimes that can be a challenge, but generally that's how I do it. I try to introduce it that way.
I like that. I got a comment from Dylan Beaumont says sometimes our work days would be easier if we could swing lightsabers on occasion.
Yeah, especially if you knew who you could swing them at, right?
Yeah.
but Dylan, in the latest Obi-Wan series, the characters are not dying anymore when they get lightsabers. I don't know what happened, but it used to be that was it. You got the lightsaber through the chest. It was over. But yeah, some of these people are coming out of the lightsaber thing. So maybe the lightsabers got stronger later in life. I don't know. But I'm with you. I wish I could swing a few. But on Dylan's point, what we naturally want to do, at least what I naturally wanted to do, is I would demonize the person who was my problem, right? I would say, well, it's all about that person. And then you go to another job, and then you go, well, it's all about that person. And then it's like the person who has 7 marriages, and they keep saying, I can't find the right person. And you want to go, maybe. So, work environment, right? You're going to take the dragon. And I've said this to several people, like, if you don't face this dragon here, you're going to face it somewhere else. Right? And if you don't get over this dragon, you don't get to the next dragon. So if your dragon here is the fear of standing up in a meeting and speaking, and you don't face that here, you're going to go to the next job, you're going to do a great job, you're going to get promoted, and they're going to expect you to speak. And then there's the dragon. So my view is face the dragons as soon as you can, because there's always another one coming, and every dragon is it's that next step, right? You're transcending your former self.
Wow, I like that. I mean, I guess we don't think about it. We all face some type of dragon, and either you choose to get over it or you choose to move on and use excuses for not facing that dragon, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think you and I talked about this, and this has just to do with this show, right? Where I've asked, and I told Chris that I've asked people to come on, and they're afraid to come on the show. You know what I mean? Because of, I don't know, they may think I'm going to ask some questions that they can't answer, whatever. Well, that's their dragon. Maybe that's their fear of not wanting to come on the show because they're not sure. They can't control it, right? They can't control the questions I'm going to ask, although the questions are just about their career and how they got to where they are. But, yeah, so, I mean, I guess we never thought about it like that, but exactly.
So, Russell, what if they spend their whole life only being in places where they know what the questions are already?
You don't learn anything. You're never going to get, exactly. You're never going to get, you're absolutely right. So, yeah, I mean, see, just in that, just one sentence, that's it. Okay. So, all right. I love it. We can end the show now based on that. But improving engagement. This is something that was in your bio. How do you improve engagement between, let's say, engagement between the general man, and I always relate things to hotels because that's the industry that I come out of, right? So how do you improve that engagement from I'm a general manager, to my subordinates, my directors or my line people or whatever?
There are, and thank you. I can't remember which exactly chapter that is in my book. I think it's chapter 5. But anyway, you didn't know that, so unless you remember that chapter. It turns out there is a lot of really good empirical, meaning measurable data on what does it take to improve engagement. And my favorite part about it is, even if there weren't any data, when I tell you what these 7 things are, you would say, well, duh, of course. But for whatever reason, a lot of places and a lot of people don't get this out of fear or whatever. So let's walk through what seven really powerful ways to improve. So if there's a takeaway from this call today, here are 7 things that somebody could do, a manager could do, but not just a manager, anybody can do, but particularly a manager in a team. Because in the hospitality industry, you are competing for talent, right? There's a lot of jobs out there and you got to get people to work in your hotel. So here are the 7 things. One is that the organization demonstrates integrity and purpose, and that the values of the company resonate with the person. Now think about that. You've been in a company where, you see people cut corners or they treat people like garbage. You can't fake that. If that's who you are, you're not going to get engagement. They're going to tolerate your paycheck, and that's about it, right? So integrity, purpose, values. A second one, more tangible here, is knowing what is expected of me. There's nothing people like least than I don't know what victory looks like, right? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You're yelling at me or you're giving me a hard time. You didn't even tell me what I'm supposed to do, right? And you'll hear people go, well, they just should have known. Well, no, you got to kind of tell them what they need to do. So the third one, and this one is really important in hospitality and in hotels, it's about believing my job is important. So if I could ask anybody who watches this, raise your hand if you've ever been in a job where you felt somebody didn't think it was important. Right, I've had more jobs than I can remember. I think back to my days in the U.S. Navy. The guys on my team, we would feed the crew. Well, you think feeding the crew is as sexy as shooting a cruise missile into some place? No, but guess what? What do you do every day? Feed the crew. What do you not do very often? Shoot cruise missiles. Fortunately, that's a good thing, right?
Yes.
So, think about that. The person who, especially in hospitality, the person who takes out the trash, the person who cleans the table, the person who cleans the room, every one of those people. The person who forgot to change the light bulb in my bed lamp last night in the hotel is important because the lamp wasn't changed. And I'm going to mention that, right? It's not a big deal, but I'm going to mention it. So making people feel important because their jobs really are important, critical. Number 4, the value and frequency of communications. So if a manager really wants people to be engaged, tell them what the heck is going on. Right? Talk to him. When I worked for Jack Welch in GE, he used to say, I remember someone asking him one day, Jack, how do you know when you've said something enough times? And he said, only when the audience can say it back to me before I start talking. So if everyone knows, they know, right? But if they don't, people are getting kind of cut out. So number 5, the potential to grow. Not everybody wants to be the CEO. And frankly, CEO jobs are a particular kind of job, right? But everybody wants to grow as a person. So you want to feel like you can do something more with yourself. If you meet people who say to you they don't want to grow, it's because they've been beaten down so much that they don't think they can anymore. But those can be some of the most powerful turnarounds. There's a famous story from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where this janitor, totally depressed guy who did a rotten job. Nobody liked him. He was kind of a slob, didn't do his job very well. And everyone was complaining about him, but nobody ever did anything. And this guy in the story catches the janitor do something right? Clean one corner well. I don't remember what the details were. And the guy says, hey, Jim, that corner looks fantastic. Well, you know where the story is going, right? Guess what? That corner never looked bad again. Right? Because Jim and then Jim said, well, if that corner, I'm going to do some more. Well, before long, Jim's finally getting some praise, right? So tell people what they're doing, right? They want that potential to grow, to get better, and there's no better way than to tell them. Number 6, and I've only got 2 more here, satisfying work relationships. Raise your hand if you want to work around a bunch of jerks. Nobody, right? Nobody. Even if you are a trader on Wall Street, you really wish those people were nicer, right? Anyway, so satisfying work relationships. And number 7, which is actually one of the most powerful, is constructive feedback. And constructive feedback means actually something you can act on. And so I always think it's really good if somebody can listen to a call like this and they can take something away. Here's how you give constructive feedback to a person. My former boss in GE taught me this. So you got somebody you want to give feedback to, and you're the right person to give feedback. You use 3 letters: like, concern, and suggest. So you say, Russell, I really like the fact that you've got a colorful background in this video. I really do. My concern is that rooster is a real distraction, and I keep looking at it. I suggest, by the way, I love your rooster. I suggest that you replace your rooster with a boring, blasé. Well, I'm kidding, of course. But so like, concern, suggest. That is constructive feedback. And those 7 things tend to raise employee engagement in every industry, especially hospitality.
Wow. That was powerful. That was really powerful, because as you're going through these things, I'm thinking about, past experiences, me being maybe a subordinate, a director of sales, and I have a general manager, and, a lot of that stuff, yeah, I guess, well, let me just say this. What's going on in the industry now, right? Where, during COVID, people were laid off and terminated or whatever. And now people don't want to come back, right? People have not come back. And this is not just here in California. This is nationally. They're having a hard time finding people. And I'm wondering, is it because of how we treated people in the past? We weren't acknowledging them. We weren't engaging with them. All the things that you mentioned, that's what I'm thinking. That's the reason why. What do you think about that? Am I right on that? Do you think that's part of it?
I think it's always a good idea to tell the host of a show that he's right. In this case, though, you really are. I think you're spot on, because think about it. What do people say to their friends when they're hanging out, right? They're like, hey, you're working at the Hilton, or you're working at the Marriott, you're working at the Sheraton, whatever, right? Yeah, what's it like? It's awesome, because Russell listens to what I say. He listens to what I'm talking about. He tells me what my expectations are. He gives me feedback on my job performance. I really think he's a guy of integrity. I mean, like, this is no BS. This guy really, and what I would say, I said this about Jack Welch. I would crawl through broken glass for that guy. Why? Because he made me feel important. And that is irreplaceable. Nobody cares. Your salary plus or minus is $1 an hour. Don't get me wrong. $1 an hour matters when you add it up over a week, a month, a year. But compared to feeling important and valuable and listened to in a company, which, by the way, is all free, right? It's irreplaceable. I gave a presentation once to Jack Welch, and I gave a couple presentations to him, but one of them I gave, and he took a black Sharpie pen and he wrote best slide in the deck across this slide. I would have killed for that slide. I would have crawled across the table to grab that slide. That would have ended my career, so I decided against it. But the point is, I would have done anything for that guy. So I think in the hotel industry now, the teams that have people, for example, Kayla, I can tell you both these people's names. So Kayla at the Courtyard in Cary in North Carolina, and her boss, Michelle. And you know what Kayla said to me? Totally unsolicited. She said, Michelle is the best boss I've ever had. She makes us feel so important. She listens to what we have to say, and she implements this stuff. It's fantastic. I'm not sure I ever want to leave here. I got to, by the way, tell Michelle this. I haven't seen her lately. So I think you're absolutely right. If you want to compete, that person who's going to fix a light bulb in my room needs to feel just as valuable as the person who's selling me a drink at the bar or a dinner or whatever, or checking me in. And that's not hard to do if you really value people. So
that's true. It's like, in hotels, we always say we have our external customers and our internal customers. We want to take care of the external, meaning the guests, but we fail to take care of the internal customers who are our associates or our employees.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah. So,
but if you and I are tight, you and I are working in the same hotel. You're the head of sales and I'm the head of whatever, or I'm the guy emptying the ashtrays. And you and I get along, see each other in the hall. Russell, how you doing, man? Yeah, Chris, how you doing, man? I mean, that spreads. It becomes this positive reinforcing culture that, and again, the amazing part about this is it's free, right? And the challenge is when, like, let's say you're the hotel manager of a 300 room hotel, but you're the regional manager above you is a jerk. How do you demonstrate that wonderful culture downward when you're not getting it above you, right? And that takes courage. It's not easy to do, but it's also the way you get promoted, is to run a fantastic hotel, to run the best housekeeping team, to be the best bartender at the bar, right? You cannot keep blaming up, because you're never going to have the perfect boss. And even when you're the boss, you're not going to be the perfect boss, right?
That's true. That's true. You're absolutely right. I mean, I had my shortcomings too, but dealing with people and treating people with respect and appreciating them was not one of them. Okay, I can honestly say that. But
And
it's
they
funny.
talked about you.
Yeah. You know,
They
it's
did.
funny you should say that because I started off in housekeeping. I started off as a housekeeping manager years ago, right? And I mean, so that was always, I guess, in my blood or in my being, right? So no matter where I went, no matter what positions I still held after that, because I was a general manager, director of sales and marketing, I always paid attention to housekeeping first. I always made sure they were taken care of. I always made sure that I went and said hello. I always made sure I had candy at 3 o'clock because I know there's a sugar high. They need a sugar high to finish those last several rooms. You know what I mean? I always knew that, so I kept
Right.
that. And they're like, "Why are you checking rooms? Why are you here?" Because this is where I came from, and I had this passion for, and to this day, I mean, I still, when I go to a hotel, well, the first thing I do is check my room to see how how clean it is, whatever. But I give feedback, and I make sure I leave something in the form of a tip or whatever for my housekeeper, whoever was taking care of my room during that time, because that's where I came from. I guess that's where I
Right.
came from, and I know how hard they work, and I know the fact that the things that are going on now and why they don't want to come back to work is because we weren't appreciating them when they were there. Now all of a sudden we want them to come back, and they don't want to come back. Well, why don't they want to come back? Well, it's as simple as what you said. You know, respect what they're doing and acknowledge what they're doing. Engage with them. And a lot of
Absolutely.
general managers and whatever managers in general don't engage with their people. And because it's not their people, meaning I'm a front office manager, I'm not going to engage with the housekeepers because that's not my responsibility. As a manager, the entire hotel is your responsibility. But people don't think of it like that. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to. See, you can get me. I'm getting kind of heated here, Christopher.
I'll let you roll. You couldn't be more right. And I know that some people have not been exposed to good examples, so
Mhm.
they don't they slugged their way up to wherever they are in their job, and they never really had to do this. Let me give you another story. I'm meeting when I was writing the book. Again, Noble Automation now available at all bookstores, right?
Yeah. I was
When I was
going
writing,
to ask you some questions about that, but
that's
keep
so
going. Keep
shameless. But
going.
anyway, so when I was writing the book, I interviewed the CEO of a company called Leidos. And Leidos is a really big defense contractor in Washington, D.C. They make some of those machines you go through in the airport that detect metal and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm interviewing this CEO, and I said to him, this is a big guy, big cheese. And the first question I said to him was, Roger, his name's Roger Crone. I said, so Roger, why are you doing this interview? Because we haven't met and you're willing to do this interview. And he said, because I want people to know you do not have to be like I was when I was younger to do a great job and be a leader. And I want people to not do some of those things. And I thought, wow. And by the way, he was a captivating interview, fantastically. I'm just really an interesting guy. And everyone I've talked to who speaks, who works for him, thinks he's a great guy. So I think that doesn't mean you have to be namby-pamby soft. It means you have to be a
Yeah.
firm, good leader. But,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Jack Welch he was a hard ass when you worked with him. But when
Mhm.
you did something right and he told you that, you felt like a little kid and dad just gave you a pat on the back, right? And
Mhm.
one of the best bosses I ever had was a woman Navy commander when I was in London. Well, okay, one more. I'll give you a story about humility. So I check into this base, this Navy base in London. It's a shore duty base. And I had just come from Japan. And in Japan, the women in the office, it's kind of very sexist. The women are pouring all the coffee. They won't let you pour your own coffee, which is ridiculous. And we think of that as just ridiculously backwards. But, this is 25 years ago. So I stopped touching coffee cups because I was told by the senior Japanese women, that's my job. Do not mess with the coffee cup. So I took my hands off, and I didn't do that. I didn't grow up like that, but I'm doing what I'm told, right? So I moved to London after Japan. And I'm standing in front of the coffee machine in this Navy base, and I'm looking at the empty coffee machine, and my boss, the Navy commander, is right next to me. And I looked at the machine, and I said, well, who makes the coffee? And she looks at me and she says, that would be you, Lieutenant. And I'm like, I guess I'm not in Japan anymore. I've used that expression. That would be you, Lieutenant. And guess what? I still make better coffee. So and in my house, and my wife says, where's the coffee? I'm the one making the coffee. Anyway, humility is a huge thing as a leader.
That is hilarious. Thank you for that. Hey, we're on today with Mr. Christopher Hodges. He wrote this book called Noble Automation Now. When you say, and I'm not sure if you addressed this, I know in your book, Noble Automation Now, you speak that helping humans be, oh no, we talked about that. We talked about humans being heroes. Didn't we talk about that?
We
right?
did.
We did talk about
that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But you didn't ask me, what the heck does noble automation mean, right? That's a good question.
There you go. Yeah, what does that mean?
So the term noble automation, I had been involved in several projects in Europe implementing automation. And many companies would implement it with the purpose of cutting costs and firing employees, right? And that is not what this technology is best at. And what I realized is what the word noble automation comes from the European expression noblesse oblige. And noblesse oblige meant the obligation of the noble to treat the people in their kingdom with nobility and generosity, right? And the reason they do that is not because it's a charity. They do that because great countries, dynasties, companies, organizations, hotels are led respecting people at all levels in the organization. That's what makes them great dynasties, great hotels, great countries, right? So the idea of, we need automation. That's very important. It's just the technology is fantastic. It does amazing stuff. But you have to implement it with nobility, which means to pay attention to all the stakeholders. And the stakeholders include the employees, the customers, the shareholders. Now, not everybody it's not some equal, Marxian thing. It just means if you're going to implement this stuff, take into consideration everybody. Some people might leave and go do something else. Other people's jobs are going to get more interesting and challenging. And if you think that through carefully, your company is likely to grow, which means you're going to need more people. So the person I interviewed who wrote the foreword of my book, his name is Laurent Fricks. And Laurent Fricks is the head of about 60% of Nestle. Right, so Nestle is this just gigantic multi-billion-dollar company. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, and he gave me all this time on the phone. And one day I said to him, so in one of the interviews, I said, "So Laurent, tell me how you feel about this automation stuff." And he said, "We don't have a choice. Our customers expect a level of intimacy and connection and service, and I have to have automation to support that. And by the way, I need more people." And the only way I'm going to get as many people as I need is to get the current people to stop doing stupid things and let them do the things they want to do. This guy runs 17 countries for Nestle. So nice guy. He even has this trophy. It's in my book, but he has this trophy that he gets produced every year. And it's this circle of virtue sort of that says, we save money, we invest the money in people, we produce new products and services, we grow the company, we save money, we invest more money. It's this wonderful virtuous circle. And he has a different artist in Europe every year make this trophy out. Again, the picture of it's in my book. But I mean, that's the kind of leadership. That's the kind of thinking that just motivates the heck out of people. So noble automation means implement automation to serve all of your stakeholders.
Okay, I like that. Now, was the book difficult? What made you write this book, and how difficult or painful or time consuming? Well, I'm sure it took several years to write the book. That you didn't do it overnight, right?
Well, so I have a quote for you, and I wish I'd said it, but Ernest Hemingway is the one and I am no Ernest Hemingway, but Ernest Hemingway has this wonderful quote, and he says, "Writing is really not difficult. Just sit down at the typewriter and bleed." Which is exactly what it feels like. So what happened? What happened is I'd been in consulting for about 15 years at this point, and I kept giving speeches, professional speeches within the organization to whatever's going on. And I was in the island of Sardinia. How does that sound for exotic? So I was in the island of Sardinia, and I was giving a speech to about 400 colleagues, and the topic was on the power of relationships and how important that can be in an organization. And when I got off the stage, I had more people say to me, "Why are you in consulting and not in public speaking?" And I finally realized that was a message that a lot of people had said to me over the years, that you really should do more public speaking. But I have to do both. I love to work with clients, like I'm doing this week with this client. So I decided I needed to encapsulate some of these ideas I'd been working on. And I had given a speech called "Helping Humans Be Heroes." As a matter of fact, it's on my website. You can see a portion of that. And I feel like I'm plugging my book, my website, whatever. Go to my website.
As you should be. As you should be.
Noble Automation Now. On Noble Automation Now, you can find an example of a speech I gave called "Helping Humans Be Heroes," which is the backbone of this book. And so I sat down and I said, I've got to help people. I have a couple of examples that are just epic examples of people having better lives and better careers as a result of implementing these things. And I said, well, I better put that in a book, so if I'm not around to talk about it, someone can read it and adopt some, because what do you do, right? Russell, you live how many years of your life, and think all the different things you've learned and seen. So if you can share some of those with people, I mean, how many things have you learned from someone else the same way? I've learned so much from so many people and some of it was very painful and some of it was very pleasurable. But so that's why I wrote the book. I thought people could read that book and they could adopt some of those points and be more successful than some of in the book has got a couple of really horrible examples, because I think it's important to see what can go wrong too, right? Yikes, don't do that, So that's why I wrote it. I wrote the book after that, and it was published in January.
Okay, how long did it take you to write it?
Let's just say I had the outline 2 years before I actually really stopped working. I literally stopped working at all, and I wrote it nonstop for 12 months.
Okay.
So, but the outline was before that. But you really can't, like Hemingway said, you can't write for 8 or 10 hours a day. You write you know what you do in my house? You write for 4 hours a day, and then you do whatever your wife tells you to do the rest of the
day. I understand. Now, do you go back? I know you do speaking engagements everywhere, all over the world. Now, does the U.S. Navy actually have you come back and do anything for them?
I haven't done a speech for them, but I think it would be a fantastic. Now, a couple of my classmates are now very senior admirals. So I should get on the phone with those guys and say, hey, man, you need to bring me back to the Pentagon. That's a great idea. Yeah, I do. I speak. The most recent speech I just gave was a big speech to Etsy, the big online vendor. And my daughter has an Etsy store. So it was so exciting to talk to them and say, hey, my daughter's got a store on your site. And I got to speak to about 300 of their leaders. And what a great culture and company and group of people. So if anybody wants to know, is Etsy a great company? They're a fantastic company. I was a little worried. I mean, how am I going to help you? Right. And then I realized, there's a few areas.
Well, that's good. So you give speeches, motivation, things like that. But you do go in like the company that you're in now, you go in and see where the issues are, the problems, and how they can make things better, correct?
Yeah, I do three things. I do the speech, a keynote speech that hopefully inspires people on this subject, right? And if they are in fact inspired and say, hey, I could really apply that, then the next thing I usually do is offer to do a workshop with their leadership team, because you want the leadership team of a business, whether it's 5 leaders or 50 leaders. You want them to be thinking similarly, at least, have the same kind of, they don't find the ideas alien. And then the next step beyond that is to take that into actually train some of the teams and get the teams to do some different behaviors. So it's kind of a 3-layer thing. And then in this environment, I've actually got a couple of executives I'm coaching individually, because every executive can benefit from those. I mean, I certainly have, right? I think of how many people taught me so I can work individually with people as well. And the whole point is simply to help humans be heroes in the age of automation.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So if someone is watching here, Chris, how can they get a hold of Christopher Hodges?
If I haven't said nobleautomationnow.com enough times, they could reach out to me at nobleautomationnow.com. They could even send me a letter at chris@nobleautomationnow.com on my email, chris@nobleautomationnow.com. And I'd love to help you or talk to you about it, or just share some things as well. It's a great big world with a bunch of exciting stuff going on, and the hospitality industry is one of my favorites. By the way, I was born in Las Vegas, the land of hospitality.
Okay, all right. Well, then there you go. Well, no, I thank you so much for coming on. We're almost out of time. We got 2 minutes left, so I do appreciate you coming on. And I love when you reference the book, because that's what you're here to do, right? I mean, people they tend to forget. I'm here to let people talk about their brand, Christopher Hodges, the book that you put out, what you do, all those things, because I think all those things will help someone out, right? So how to get a hold of you. Maybe somebody wants to write a book. It's going to inspire them to do that. Maybe they didn't know who Christopher Hodges was. Now they know the brand, the guy behind the brand, or the name Christopher Hodges, right? Or the guy behind the book. So that's what people come on here for. This is why I want them to come on. This is why I started the show, so you can pub or whatever you want to call it, brag about it, because that's what this is about. This is an opportunity to come on and talk about and discuss.
It's fantastic. I love the opportunity, but I hope people take away, anything you listen to, take away 3-4 things that you say, I could do something with that. I only came on the show to see the rooster, but aside from
now you've seen the rooster now. but I'm gonna go, and normally I don't. And I've told a couple people this, that once I do a show, I don't go back and listen to it. I don't watch it, okay? But because of all the information you drop, the gems, the diamonds, the whatever that you drop, there's a lot of good information in there. And I can use that in my life, as well as my own consulting business with hotels and things like that. So I think that it's valuable. And I didn't know what I was going to get. That's the thing. I knew I'm going to get this dynamic person, but I didn't know I was going to get all this information that you're dropping on us. So I do appreciate that, Chris.
Thank you. Russell, I really appreciate it. I'm really glad we got to connect here face to face when we first met, and here virtually. And I have a feeling our paths will cross again on a hero's journey.
Something tells me you're right. Yeah, and I may have some questions for you too. Is it okay if I, reach out and email you or
absolutely
text you or whatever? Okay.
Did you say email me at chris@nobleautomationnow.com? Yes.
Yeah.
Anytime.
But no, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for joining On Air with Russell Hotels. I'm gonna give Chris the parting shot, the parting words, and then we'll be gone after that. So Chris, take it away.
I hope you all can help yourselves and others be heroes in the age of automation. It is a noble journey. I'll see you out there.
Sounds good. All right. With that, you guys have a great day, great week. Once again, I appreciate Christopher Hodges for coming on. Check out the book, Noble Automation Now. And any questions at all, if you can't get a hold of him, feel free to reach out to me. Peace.
Please tune in every Tuesday at 1 p.m. as we talk to other hospitality professionals. Your feedback is important to Russell. Feel free to email him at russell@russellofhotels.com with any questions or suggestions. Until next time, try not to be a person of success. Rather, become a person of great value.